Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, welcome. My name is Ifeoluwa and I'm an online fashion tutor. I post sewing tutorials, DIYs and fashion inspo, that is style inspo. Now in this video I'm going to show you how to cut this beautiful dress. So this dress is a ruched dress with drawstrings and then a cowl neckline design. Now, one thing I really like about this dress is the fact that you can adjust the length to whatever length you want. If it is church you are going to, you fix it to the length you want. If it is an outing, you can also fix it to the length you want. Now, this video is very detailed, so if this is something you're interested in learning how to cut and sew, stick around and watch this video to the end. And also, if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do want to subscribe. Give my video a thumbs up so it can be visible to more people. And also, do not hesitate to leave your questions or your comments in the comment section. Thank you very much, guys. Now, let's get started. Now, these are the measurements needed for this tutorial: the bust measurements, the waist, the hip measurements, the front waistline measurement, and the back waistline measurement. So this, I measured them separately. Now, this is very important to do in order to avoid zip bulge at the back. Now, I have my skirt length, which is from my waist to wherever I want the length to be. I have it as 26, and then I have 4 inches for the length of the flare I'll be adding. Now, this is my bust point, and then my across back measurement, which is from one shoulder to the other end of my shoulder, and my armhole circumference, the sleeve length, and then the sleeve width. Now I'm going to start with the top part of the dress. So this is the front pattern. The first thing I'm going to measure out is my chest line, and my chest line is my armhole circumference divided by 2. So I have 8.5. Then I'll mark out my bust point, and then I'll mark out my front waistline measurement, which is 17 inches. So I'll go ahead to do the same thing at the other side, and then I'll draw out a straight line for each of the measurements. Now I have this as my shoulder line, this is my chest line, my bust point, and then my front waistline. I'll mark out my across back measurement, which is the shoulder to shoulder measurement divided by 2. So I have 16 inches divided by 2, that is 8 inches. I'll mark it on the shoulder line down to the chest line, and I'll draw out a straight line. And then in order to create the armhole, I'm going to come down by 1 inch, and whatever I have left, I'll divide by 2 and mark that point. Now from that point, I'm going to come in by 0.75. Then on the chest line, I'm going to take my bust measurement divided by 4. So I have 38 inches divided by 4, which is 9.5. Then I'm going to connect those 3 points with my armhole curve. Now for my neckline measurements, I'm using 4.5 inches for the neck width, and then for my neck depth, I'm going to be using 3 inches for now. So I'll connect that with a curve, and then I'm going to draw out my shoulder slants. Now I'm going to fix in my dart, and the measurement for the dart is the bust span, that is from your nipple to nipple measurement. So that is 8 inches divided by 2. I have 4 inches for mine. So I'm going to connect that from the bust point to the front waistline. So I connected from the bust point to the front waistline for that. Now for the dart, I'm going to take 0.5 inch on both sides. So altogether I have 1 inch for the dart. Then I'm going to connect that into the bust points. So I already have my bust measurement on the chest line. Then I'll go ahead to fix in my waist measurement to divided by 4. So I have 32 inches divided by 4, which is 8 inches, plus the 1 inch for the dart that we fixed there. So altogether I have 9 inches. Then I'm going to connect from the chest line to my waistline. Now, since I have a difference in my front waistline and then my back waistline, I would have to take that measurement at the side there. So I have 2 inches difference. I'm going to take the measurement at the side so that by the time you sew the side of the front and the back together, they are going to come out equal. So you make sure you have an accurate measurement of your front waistline and then your back waistline. So it varies for a lot of people. Now I've taken the 2 inches there, then I'm going to connect it back into the bust points. So this is what I have, and then this part is going to be eradicated from the pattern paper. You don't need this part. Now since I'm trying to avoid having to sew 2 darts, I'm going to have to cut out one of them. So I'm going to cut out the side dart. I'll proceed to open up this part, and then I'll open up one of the dart legs, so that way I'll be able to close up this side. So this lower part is the only part we'll be having our darts. Now I'm going to close it up with my masking tape, and then I'll connect the lines together. So this is it for the basic front pattern. Then I'm going to cut out so that I can cut out my cowl neckline design. So if you are still watching this, please do not forget to subscribe to my channel, and also give this video a thumbs up, please, so that it can be visible to more people, and also drop a comment. So thank you very much, guys. Now for the cowl neckline, I'm going to open up across my chest line there. So I'm going to open that up and then stop a little bit before the last point, so it won't be completely open. So you just open it a little bit, just like slashing it a little bit and then spreading it out in order to cut out the cowl neckline. I've placed my pattern paper on my fabric. My fabric is folded into two, and then one point, the center front is on fold, so it is not in pieces. And I'm going to measure out the length I want, that is how open I want my neckline to be. I'm going to use 7 inches for mine. You can use 6 inches, you can use 7 inches, and then this part determines how deep the cowl neckline is going to plunge. So I have 12 inches for the plunging, and then I have 7 inches for how open my chest is going to be. Now from the point of that neckline there, I'm going to draw out a straight line. So from that point, I'm coming up by 0.5 inch, just so I can have allowance for sewing the neckline. So I came up by 0.5 from the point of that neckline there and drew a straight line. So I'll also add 0.5 for the shoulder slants when I'm cutting out, you know, allowance for joining. So that's 0.5. So this is what I'm saying about coming up for the ½ inch for the straight line, so as to be able to also join the facing for the cowl neckline. I also put my allowance for the armhole circumference. I use 0.5, and then for the side I'm using 1 inch for my allowance, for the side allowance. Now for the M line too, I'm going to add 0.5 inch for the allowance, so as to join it to the skirt. So you just go ahead to cut it the way I cut it here, not forgetting the darts. So when we want to sew, we are going to close up darts, so from that leg to the other leg. So I'll cut out the side seam, which I already added 1 inch for, and then my armhole, which I added ½ inch for, the shoulder slant ½ inch, and then I'll cut the straight line there, that is for the cowl neck plunge. Now I'm going to notch out the dart leg so it will be easy for me to sew. So you remember that this is the first dart, that part there, you notch it out, and then you notch out the other end, that is the other end of the second dart. And then in order to know the point you stop for the sewing of the dart, you can either use the needle and thread, so you use your thread to demarcate, or you can use a pin, or you can use your chalk to demarcate. So each one is easier for you, just go ahead to do that. So I used my needle and thread, so the thread is going to show me where to stop when I'm sewing the darts. So guys, this is what I have for the front part of the top. You can see the neckline, the cowl neckline, and then for the darts, by the time you sew the darts, you're going to have your waistline back. Now let's move on to the back pattern of the top. So I'm going to bring out my zip allowance. I'm using 1 inch for the zip, and then I'm going to connect a straight line. Now like the front, I'm going to measure out my chest line, which is my armhole divided by 2. Then I'll measure out my back waistline measurement. So you remember that the back waistline measurement is different from the front waistline measurement. So I have 15 inches for that, and then I'm going to mark it and connect a straight line across. So this is my shoulder line, the chest line, and then the back waistline measurements. Now this part, I'm going to call it the center back line. Now I'm going to measure out my across back just like the front. I have 16 inches divided by 2. So you make sure you're measuring out from the center back line. You know that line is now our zip line. It is a zip allowance. So you're measuring from the center back line. So I've connected that, and then I'm going to come down by 1 inch. Whatever I have left, I'll divide by 2 and mark. Then from that point, I'll come in by 0.5. Now on the chest line, I'm also going to take my bust measurement divided by 4. So from the center back line, so I have 9.5. Then I'm going to connect the 3 points together to create my armhole curve. I'll measure out my neckline, the same neckline I used as the front, which is 4.5. So from the center back line, I'll measure out my neckline, and then I'll come down by 1 inch. So I want the back neckline to be a high neckline. Now I'm going to connect that, and then I'll connect my shoulder slants. Now another step I'm going to take in order to prevent zip bulge for the back is to come in by 1 inch from the center back line. So you know the back is not that straight, it's a little bit curved. So I'm coming in by 1 inch there, and then I'm connecting it back into the chest line. So I have this as my new zip allowance. So this other part is no longer needed. So this is the new zip allowance. Now that I have my bust measurements on the chest line, I'm going to input my waist measurement. So starting from that point, I'll fix in my waist measurements divided by 4 plus 1 inch for the dart, and then I'm going to connect from my chest line to the waistline. Now for the dart, I'm going to use the same thing I used at the front, which is the nipple to nipple measurement, which is 8 inches divided by 4 for mine, divided by 2 for mine. So I have 4 inches. So I'm going to mark that from the center back line. Then I'm going to take 0.5 inch on both sides. So the same way I did for the front, you know, I have 1 inch for the dart allowance. Then I'm going to connect them together. Now guys, this is all for the back pattern. You can do like this, you can leave it like this and proceed to cut out, but for me I want to add a design to the back, so I want to create like a heart shape for the back. So I'm coming down by 1.5 inches from the neckline. Then for the heart shape where I want it to stop, I'm using 6 inches. I don't want the back to be too open because of the brass strap, so I'm going to just freehand. You can either freehand or use your curve to create the heart shape. That is if you want, or any other shape you want to create. So it is just like a keyhole for the back. So this is what I have for mine, so I'm just checking to see how it is going to look like at the other side when I cut out the other side of the back pattern. So this is what it looks like. Then that part is going to be cut out, and the zip too is going to be cut out. You won't have zip on that part, so I'll be using hook and eye to connect the neckline for that part. So I'll cut out what I have on my pattern paper, and then you also carefully cut out the heart shape that you have created there, or whatever shape you've created. So guys, this is how it looks like, and then by the time you fix in your zip allowance, this is what you are going to have. And then I'll be fixing the hook and eye on that top there. Now I don't want the back to have a visible dart line, so I'm going to be closing up the darts for the back, and then I'll use my masking tape to hold that together. So this is what I have after closing up the dart, and then my waistline remains the same. Now let's cut it out on the fabric. I'm adding 1/2 inch for the hem line so I can join into the skirt part, and then I'm adding 1 inch for the seam, 1/2 inch for the armhole, 1/2 inch for the shoulder slants, 1/2 inch for the neckline, and then 1/2 inch for where we'll be fixing the hook and eye, and also for the shape that we just created. For the heart shape, I'm also going to add 1/2 inch. Then for the zip allowance, you already have the zip allowance there, you don't need to add any extra inches there. So guys, this is what I have after cutting out. You can see how beautiful the back looks like. So by the time I fix in the zip, this is what I would have. So let's move to the skirt part of this dress. So this is the front part for the skirt, and then I'm just creating a straight line like a margin, so that I'll start taking my measurements from that straight line. Now from that margin, I'm going to take my hip line measurement. So that is the hip depth measurement. It is usually around 8 inches, 9 inches. So it depends on how wide your hips are. Then I'm going to take the length of the skirt, which is 26 inches for mine. So I'll do the same thing at the other side, and then I'll connect with a straight line. So this is my waistline, my hip line, and my hem line. Now on the waistline, I'm going to take my waist measurement divided by 4. So I don't want to put that on the waistline. I won't be needing that for the skirt, so I'm just going to use my accurate waistline measurement, which is 8 inches. Then on the hip line, I'll measure out my hip divided by 4, so I have 11.5 for mine. Now on the hem line, I'm going to be taking out 1 inch from the hip line, from the 11.5 that I have. So on the hem line, I'm going to be using 10.5 inches. Then I'm going to connect the points that I have. I'll connect them together. Now I'm going to cut out. So I'm adding 1/2 inch there for the hem of the dress, because I'm going to be attaching my flare to that part. Then I'm going to use 1 inch for the side seam, the same way I used for the top part. Then for the upper part on the waistline, I'm going to use 1/2 inch too, because I'll be joining the top to the skirts. So guys, this is it for the front part of the skirt. Now let's move on to the back part of the skirt. It is also folded into 2, and I'm going to draw a straight line too, like a margin. And then from that margin I've created, I'm going to measure out my hip line, that is my hip depth, and then I'll measure out my skirt length. So I'll do the same thing at the other side, and then I'll connect a straight line. Now I'm going to do exactly the same thing I did for the back pattern of the top. I'm going to bring out my zip allowance using 1 inch. Now you remember for the back pattern of the top, we had to come in by 1 inch in order to avoid zip bulge. So I'll be doing the same thing for the skirt part. I'm going to come in by 1 inch from that line. So that is also the center back line for the skirt. I'm going to come in by 1 inch, and I'll connect it into my hip depth. So it's going to be my new zip allowance. So guys, this right here is going to be the new zip allowance, and then this part is not needed anymore. So it is just like the back pattern. It's not difficult at all. Then I'll proceed to take my waistline measurement divided by 4. So from that point there, I'll take the waistline divided by 4. So I'm not also adding any dart for the back. Then I'm going to take my hip line. So from the line there, that is the center back line, I'll take my hip line divided by 4. I'll mark it. And then for the hem line, also from that center back line, I'm going to subtract 1 inch from my hip line. So I have 10.5 inches there. So I'll connect them all together and I'll cut out. So to cut out, I'll also be adding all the necessary allowances needed. So I'm adding ½ inch here for the hem line, and then 1 inch for the side seam, and ½ inch for the waistline area. And for the zip allowance, I already have my zip allowance there. I won't be adding anything. So I'm just going to open it up like that and then open the rest. So guys, you can see that you're going to have exactly the same thing you have for the back pattern for the top, apart from the same allowance that we've already added. So it has to rhyme together so that by the time you join them, it will be equal. Now here I want to cut out my flay, which is optional. If you want to cut out flay, you can cut it out, but if you want to leave your hem line like that as straight, you can leave it like that. But for me, I'm going to be cutting out flay, so I'm using a 360-degree flay. But because of the availability of my material, I had to cut out twice. I had to cut it twice. So what I'm using here for the radius is the length of the hem line. So you measure out what you have in total for the hem line. That is where you're going to be adding the flay, and then you divide by 6.28. that is the formula for a 360-degree flay. So whatever you are using, you divide by 6.28. so that is my hem line in total. I have 42 inches divided by 6.28. so I forgot to mention that my fabric is folded into 4, so all the parts are folded except from this lower part. So what I'm measuring out here now is my the length of the flay plus 1 inch for allowance. So that is what I just measured out here. So this is what I have, and then I've cut it out, and you open up one of the sides. So don't open up both sides, you just open up one of the sides. Now because of the availability of fabric, this is only for the front part now. So what I have here is just for the front part, so I have to cut out another one again so as to complete the hem line. So guys, this is what I have. So now I have one for the front and I have one for the back. So you see how beautiful the flare is. And then I proceeded to cut out my sleeves. So if you want to add sleeves to yours, you can add any type of sleeve you want. So I just want mine to be a short sleeve. That is just an ordinary short sleeve. Now I also cut out the strings I'll be using for the drawstring. So in my next tutorial, due to the fact that this video is getting too long, in my next tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to sew this step by step. It's going to be very detailed, everything on how to sew it from the beginning to the end. So I'm just cutting out the strings here now. So guys, let me know if you are going to be trying this tutorial, and I can assure you that if you follow all these steps, you are going to come out with something very beautiful. So let me know if this was helpful in the comment section. Please do not forget to subscribe to my channel. In my next tutorial, I'm going to show you how to sew this from the beginning to the end. So subscribe to my channel, give my video a thumbs up, and also ask your questions in the comment section. So thanks for watching guys. I'll see you in my next tutorial. Bye.